Good morning.
Good morning.
When asked to speak on the topic of stewardship, I first struggled to think about what I could possibly say that's impactful, as I consider my story to be fairly ordinary. However, these feelings of doubt quickly subsided when I realized that my kids would have to sit and listen to me for 3 whole minutes. Sit still, guys. I'm still in the nascent phase of growing in love through Christ Church. My husband Chris and I have been members for 9 years, most of which has been focused on getting our 5 kids mostly on time-ish to church every Sunday. But with many more years of growing in love through Christ Church ahead of me, I'll focus on the 3 chapters that have most influenced how I got here and why I give. Chapter 1, Stewardship Through My Eyes as a Child. My relationship with giving started around age 4 or 5 when I enthusiastically asked if I could drop the check that my father prepared each week into the tray. When I asked my parents why we gave money to the church, they simply explained that everything we have comes from God, and the Bible tells us to give back generously to say thank you for his abundant blessings. Although I had no idea how much money was inside that envelope, I did see the sacrifices my parents made in order to give. It seemed like I was the only kid in school that helped my mom clip coupons for the grocery store, who didn't wear designer jeans to school, and who didn't go to away camp every summer. Despite seeing all the material things I didn't have, my mother constantly reminded us that God had given us everything we needed and that we were indeed wonderfully blessed. I wouldn't fully understand this until years later. Chapter 2, God throws me a big test of faith and teaches me about love. Up until age 12 or so, church was something I did every week. I put on my nicest clothing, I frantically tried to memorize that week's Bible verses on the way to church that I was supposed to be able to recite at Sunday school. By the way, thanks for not making church stressful for our kids. Those Presbyterians are hardcore. But I didn't yet understand what having a relationship with God meant. So when I entered early adolescence, God threw me my first big test of faith. Shortly before my 13th birthday, I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. I began not to believe in the verse that I had memorized from Psalm 139 about being fearfully and wonderfully made. I instead believed that God had made a mistake with me. I withdrew from my friends and family and eventually had to give up my dance career. Each hospitalization made me more determined to prove I wasn't worthy of love. But God intervened to prove me wrong. I soon found myself in a Christian treatment center 2,000 miles away from home. I begrudgingly went to chapel every morning and fought everyone who was trying to help me. I hatched many plans to get out of there, but nothing worked, so I tried running away. However, you can't get very far running from a dude ranch in the middle of the desert, and nor as I was coming to realize, can you run away from the Holy Spirit? I remember journaling one particularly sunny morning when it hit me. I realized that God was in control, not me. I could keep fighting, or I could surrender the control that I was holding so deeply. I realized my life wasn't a mistake and that God had given me many talents to share with others. I surrendered control to God and threw myself into the process of recovery, vowing I would never try again to squander the talents that God had given me. I later found out that my parents sold a car, drained our rainy day fund, mortgaged our modest house, and drained my college savings to pay for my 5-month stay. I suddenly understood what my mom meant by God always gives us what we need. God saved my life, and I started to see God's love and abundance differently, and I grew in love. Chapter 3, Multiplying God's Love Through Christ Church. Fast forward a few years, like many young professionals, I spent my 20s working an inhumane number of hours per week and chasing fast career growth at all costs. Most Sunday mornings, I just attended casually when I could, when I wasn't working or recovering from exhaustion. And during this time, I wasn't deepening my relationship with God, nor sharing my time, talent, and treasure to grow his kingdom, as I had promised to do from that dude ranch in Arizona. I was failing at being a Christian and was for sure failing at stewardship. However, as God tends to do, he sent me a wake-up call, our first child. In reflecting on what God's gifts we could give to our children, it was clear that an unwavering faith and relationship with God was the most important foundation to help them build. Finding a church home where we could root our family in faith became a priority. We expected a long and painful process of church shopping, but after visiting Christ Church, we knew that this is where we wanted to call home. I'm not sure if it was Melissa welcoming our children as if they were her own, Richard's contagious energy and feeling as though we were in a God-blessed concert at Carnegie Hall, or the church coffee that tasted better than church coffee because we were surrounded by wonderful people, Whatever it was, we knew that Christ Church was a special place and was where we wanted to do the important work of raising our kids in a community of faith. For 9 years, we have grown in love here. So to close, why do I give? To address the obvious answer, it costs a lot of money to run a thriving church with abundant programming and resources and music and air conditioning. And while doing my part to keep the lights on is essential, I don't think about stewardship simply as paying for my share of consumption of church resources, and neither does God. The more important reason that I give is to return the abundant love and gifts that God has given to me throughout my life. Living in a community like this makes it easy to fixate on all the things I don't have, or to assume that everything I do have is deserved solely due to my hard work. And while I have worked hard my entire life, the opportunities to profit from my hard work have come from God. I haven't deserved these opportunities more than anyone else. I've just been blessed. Just like I prayed 30 years ago from that ranch in Arizona, I pray with our kids every night asking God to help show us how we can best use the gifts He has given us to grow His kingdom and to help others. As stewardship season approaches, I invite you to reflect on the gifts that God has blessed you with and consider in thoughtful prayer how you can give your time, talents, and treasure to multiply God's love and abundance throughout our congregation and throughout the world. Thank you.
Lindsey, thank you.